Welcome everybody to episode 15 of the You Can't Comp This NBA podcast. And as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Adam. How are you today, mate?
I am fantastic. It's post-hobby hangout, post-trade deadline.
Yep.
What else is there to live for at the moment? I mean, we've got the next hobby hangout, the next meetup, the next... When are we going to sift through basketball card boxes? I'm excited.
Look, actually, I've been doing mail days today for people, and then I actually realized I had about 1,000 cards sort of just piling up on my desk. So I've just been sorting out cards myself today. So I sort of feel like, I've had my basketball card hit today. I'm not too withdrawn from hobby hangout.
It's I don't know. I'm feeling the withdrawals at the moment. I'm like I do want to rummage. I want to rummage. It was such a good weekend last week.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it?
And yeah, I guess back down to business. We're through the halfway point. All Stars happened.
Well, actually, we're well past the halfway point in this year's season, man. It's
and we've only had one release card wise. Isn't that amazing?
They've turned out a couple. So Elite just dropped sort of 2 weeks ago. Donruss dropped this week.
Yep.
And of course, Hoops has been out too. So they're slowly getting them out, but it just seems super slow, doesn't it, compared to what we would usually be getting them out?
That happens. So
why don't we talk about Elite first? Because that actually seems like a product that is getting a lot more traction that I was probably anticipating.
Probably because everyone's sick to death of Hoops.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. I mean, I think Hoops, to be honest, I thought was pretty well received this year, but I think Elite has actually changed the trajectory of its product this year, because I felt like the last 2 years, to be honest, it was very much a forgotten product, and the price of it definitely didn't move upwards. If anything at all, it probably went backwards. Yeah. So I think that's a really strong indicator of, how well it's received and how well it's doing on the secondary market, particularly with singles. And I've actually just texted you a picture of a LeBron James green that just sold recently. It's sold out of Elite Basketball. Yeah. It's sold for $600 US. So I think when we're talking about figures like that, there's two things that, you do need to say about this before we just sort of say, well, it's $600 US. It's numbered to 23, which is...
Wow.
It's a low numbered card. But the thing that's actually taken me by surprise the most is the die cut, because traditionally die cuts don't do as well as, sort of standard cards. But the selling point of this card is they look like the precious metal gems, which people are familiar with, sort of that older type, basketball cards, like, pre-Panini.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think my takeaway from this is actually two things: that Panini's really trying to turn up the volume here in terms of, competing in the space, because perhaps they sort of feel Topps or they feel Fanatics sort of breathing down their necks a little bit. Yeah. I might be reading too much into this off just like a single card, but I would also broadly say too that I didn't like Panini having an exclusive stranglehold over it, because in some ways it doesn't really challenge them to push themselves or, really become creative and inventing new things all the time. So that's one thing I like about Fanatics, taking over, is that they've already brought Topps into the fold. So that sort of puts a little bit of, Panini's looking over their shoulder now to sort of see what else is out there. And maybe this is the type of, innovation we're going to see. And the other thing that you can't go past with Elite too is the on-card autographs in the product too. So
yeah. The on-card autos are definitely a big draw card.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. Interesting. Well, I was going to say, over the last 2 years, we haven't seen a lot of on-card autos.
Yeah.
I'm sort of glad we're past that now with.
Yeah, that's a very good point, isn't it? Because it has sort of shown that, they've caught up a little bit, or they've improved their processes to sort of cope with the current situations. And for me, it's just really, really good. And I think also too, there's always one card, even if it's a bad release, or it's a release that's like Chronicles, or it's, Flux from last year, there's still some really nice cards out of those. Like the encased card out of Flux, I thought was really good. And even the Mesosphere and the Stratosphere cards, and it turns out I'm not that great with the different layers of the atmosphere, but there's also a Troposphere card, which is
Oh wow.
a case hit, which I just found out recently. So you know what I mean? Like there's always
Yeah.
one card, and maybe the one card out of Elite that we're talking about is this sort of precious metal looking type card. So
Well, it's interesting you point out about the track record with die cut cards specifically. I spoke to Lane the past weekend about this because I had a Kobe Rock Solid from Studio.
yeah,
Now the Rock Solid, I don't know if it was a case hit, but it was a relatively rare insert set.
yeah,
So I got the Kobe, and it's got those. And looking at this, it looks like it's got those not sharp corners. There's no sharp corners on a die cut, and I think that's an important part.
Yeah,
because Select do a lot of sharp corners on theirs.
Yeah,
and it's difficult getting stuff like that graded. We were talking about, but the smoother, more rounded corners,
yeah,
that's probably not going to impact the ability to grade the card. I guess.
Yeah, sure.
It's just it's
easier to grade those. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much easier to grade, but it's harder. It's harder for it to get damaged easily.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I feel like I'm tongue tying myself with this, but like the Kobe has got the smooth edges, and that's what Lane and I were saying is that it actually looks good because there's no whitening. There's no sharp corner to see whitening. Whereas I've got like a die cut Dirk that's got some sharp pointy bits from Select. Yeah. There's no way I'd send that off for grading.
Yeah.
As much as I've tried to look after it, it's got like really pointy edges to it. Lots of them.
And look, again, I think if we start to take too much out of this, we're definitely going too far and we're reading too much into it. But what the hell? Let's just do it.
Let's go down rabbit holes. Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm looking at this LeBron now that we were referring to that's out of Elite, and that's actually got rounded corners. So maybe strategically they do understand that, they do realize that, and they really want this set to do well. And cards grading well definitely helps resale. So really interesting. Look, I didn't buy any Elite last year. I didn't even break any. I just completely stayed away from it. I will definitely be buying. Actually, I need to rephrase that. I've definitely bought some, and in fact, I've already bought a second lot already. So I think, and we spoke about this a little bit the last few episodes about, really Panini has made a huge effort to sort of just throw mud against the wall and see what sticks. And I think this product is now a keeper, and it's definitely going to be, it's stuck. So
it's a sticker because it's got on-card autos. There's a play on words for you.
Yeah. So I think from here we can segue really easily into Donruss too, because that dropped this week. Have you been into any breaks? Have you watched any of it?
I haven't been into any breaks. I haven't seen any of the new product, but I'm keen to get a bit of a squiz at it.
Yeah, I jumped into a couple of breaks with the guys in Adelaide Sports Cards World. They had spots. It was just sort of too good for me to pass up, so I jumped into that.
Yeah.
Random team, I got Pacers and I got Nets, which I then traded for Hawks.
Yeah.
So again, the Net Marvels cards are really strong out of that. The next day autos is they're the ones you're chasing. So that's back again this year, which it wasn't there last year, and that for me was really not upsetting. That's not the right word, but it was really disappointing just for the fact that is your chase card. So what are you chasing out of this product if it's not there? So I'm really, really glad that they're back this year because they're super collectible cards. Yeah. They really hold their, value well. And even low end players, sometimes I see the eBay sold price. I'm like, what, who is paying this, money for these, you know what I mean? For these cards. So I think, yeah. In terms of the numbered cards, I have noticed that I keep going back to Flux and in Chronicles and stuff, but they had a lot more numbered cards in them. So I don't know how they're doing this because I definitely think the print runs are a lot larger. So are they put more cards into the set so that they can then make more numbered cards just to give, people a little bit more value for money? Because it just seemed to me that
you're not getting a conspiracy brewing there, are you?
No, I'm definitely not. But let me use this as an example. So we also break WNBA, and the print runs of that are dramatically less. You might get
Of
five or
course.
five or
Yeah.
six numbered cards per hobby box, right?
Yep.
Whereas with NBA, it kind of feels like at the moment, if you get two,
Mm.
you're doing pretty well. But also too, like where are these sort of cards coming from? Because they're not particularly
Yeah.
low number. They're like number to 299 or something like that. So I mean, maybe that's how they're doing it. They're just doing it, say 5, 10, 50, 100, 199, 299,
Yeah.
and that's enough to sort of spread out
Mm.
that print run. But yeah, I definitely noticed that. It just seemed like there was a couple more numbered cards than what I was probably expecting to be in there. And again, they brought back press proof, which I really like those cards. That's a nice little,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
variant.
there's
Yeah,
probably a couple of ways they can increase the print run and still have the same feel
yeah,
for numbered cards. Just have an additional couple of. So if you've got something that's numbered to 299,
yeah,
then you have two insert sets that are numbered to 299, and you can actually double the print run, and the same amount are coming out of boxes.
So what do you mean by that? Do you mean
So if you've got, say, and we'll try and condense it as much as possible.
yeah,
You've got, say, we'll say something's numbered to 100,
yeah,
right? Nice and easy. And because it's numbered to 100, not that these numbers mean anything,
yeah,
there's 1,000 cases printed,
sure,
right? Which means you get your every however many boxes one of the numbered to 100 cards comes out,
yeah,
right? We're going to print 2,000 boxes, and we're going to have another set that's numbered to 100 in addition to the normal set that's numbered to 100.
okay.
That way, every time people open the same number of boxes as they used to, they're going to pull the same amount of cards numbered to 100.
So does that mean there could be the same card? Like you
No,
might
just
get,
be an insert set. It might be a different variant. You know what I mean? So you know how some sets don't have 199, but they've
yeah.
got 299.
Oh, yeah,
It
right,
might
yeah,
include both. It might include a bigger port. We'll go even selected it. There's 45 different one of ones.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like that's
yeah, yeah.
you
I
apply
know
that
what you're saying.
to the same
Yeah.
numbering. Yeah.
Actually, you do see that now and then, don't you? Because people say have a low numbered, say iMac patch or something like that. And they say, "Well, how
Mm,
have you got the same 3 or 5 that I've got, but it's slightly different?" I see what you're
yeah.
trying to say there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like there are different ways to do it and very subtle ways of doing it. And it's
yeah,
not that it's the wrong thing by Panini. Obviously, they need to, I guess, get the product into circulation, like more product into circulation, and you can't really stinge on the print run when the supply demand issue is still there. So
yeah,
they've made more products. They've thrown more variations in to keep it same feel. I
yeah,
guess that would be my theory on it. And hell, if Panini want to write to us and let us know, that'd be fantastic. But
yeah. I mean, what's your thoughts overall about Donruss though? Because I would probably say if you saw last year's product, you'll like this year's. To me,
yeah,
there's not that much, different in it. And actually, I was talking about this to someone online the other night. Like, I have very warm memories of Donruss because it was sort of
mm.
not sort of, it was really the product that got me back into collecting and
Mm.
specifically into breaking. And it was
Yeah,
the first sort of big card that I hit out of a box that I pulled. And I had that graded and, sent that off and, sold it on eBay and then bought more product. You know what I mean? It was that,
it's that fond memory that
yeah.
yeah,
I think it's a really good entry level product for people who are, getting into the hobby. And I think I'm saying this in the nicest way possible. It's kind of like an adult version of hoops where, hoops, we've said this, so many times,
yeah.
leave
I
the
know what you
hoops for
mean.
the kids. And then, I think Donruss is a great entry level product. And I think they've really nailed that again. Do I think
Yeah.
they've, um, innovated the whole product and changed it up? No, I don't think they have. I think they've really stuck to the recipe that they know, which is net marbles
If it
now.
ain't broke, don't fix it.
They've definitely haven't fixed it. They've just put back into it what they should have put into
Yeah.
it last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's a good product. That's for what it is. It's a really good product,
Yeah.
and it's
100%.
consistent. It's safe, dependable. We know what it is. We know what to expect. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you want to chat anything more about that or move on to the next bit?
Let's move on because
Yeah.
otherwise I'll go down the rabbit hole with 1,000,001 conspiracies, and we don't need that kind of anxiety.
Well, I enjoy conspiracy theories. Why don't you just give me one conspiracy theory?
Oh, look, the Panini creating a bunch of variants to just increase their print runs.
I mean, is that a conspiracy? I think that's pretty
It could almost be fact. Let's
yeah.
be.
I mean,
yeah.
Mosaic retail, select retail. That's
You know what?
You need, really.
No, look, one of our eager listeners does have a lot of theories on the retail versus hobby, or how it should work. Shout out to Al, Chesh. I would like to hear some of those theories.
Why don't we get Al on for a 5-minute spot, and then he can tell us.
Yeah, let's let these theories. Well, apparently his computer's broken at the moment, but
we invited you, Al, but your computer was broken.
That's like, maybe we'll just get him on the phone. No, once his computer's up and running, maybe we'll just jump. We'll hijack one of his streams.
Yeah,
and get in there and get the inside scoop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this next story, to be honest, is a little bit conspiracy theory-esque. So let's run with this.
Hit me. Let's go.
The Pelicans released an email, which was then circulated to their season ticket holders, who then put it onto Twitter. And this is how it read. Pelicans 22-23 ticket plans, be there for it all. Led by new head coach Willie Green and players Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, and CJ McCollum, the Pelicans are building something special across the street from Caesars Superdome. And with their best ever season ticket package now on sale, there's never been a better time to lock it in. Is there any
omissions?
Any omissions that stand
Who's the assistant coach? Why aren't they announcing the assistant coach?
That's right.
It's someone that's can't quite put my finger on it. It's like there's a glaringly large omission. Like, really, you couldn't miss it. Like, I'm talking huge omission.
I'm shocked that they did this.
Where is Zion?
I mean, if you want to fuel the fire that this guy's not coming back and that, he's done his time in the Pelicans, I think this is all you need to do. I think, sometimes people say to you really need to read between the lines. This is so blatantly obvious that you don't even need to read between the lines.
Read between the lines? Yeah. Zion's not going to be here.
Yeah. So
we have a pizzeria across the road that Zion will be eating at.
I mean, his prices are still sliding down. I think that's the other thing that's, really, worthy to talk about too. So
I want so badly for Zion to work, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see him coming back. Neither do New Orleans, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's all right. I'm gonna grab. Oops.
So
for a sec, card letter.
PSA 10 base last sold for $180.
Wow. PSA 10.
Yep.
That's base.
Yep.
There's 700,000 of those in circulation of the 10s, aren't they?
So his silver sold for $1,400 last.
Wow.
And in 3 months, that's down 40%. So,
is it bad of us to advise people to buy on the dip?
I think if we're advising people, we would be putting ourselves up for liability. But I think, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been buying some Zion lately because I'm just at that point now where, even if this goes terribly, I can live with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think that if you're going to buy it, I think now is, the right time. And I think, if you're comparing this to some type of commodity, if you go down to the shops and something's half price, you don't say, I'm going to sell all of my whatever that is that commodity that I've got. Generally you would go down to the shops, you see something's half price, and you'll put 2 into your shopping trolley. So that's how I'm feeling about Zion at the moment.
It's like, oh, look, they're on special.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, the injury that he's got, I'm not that stressed about. Like other guys have had that same injury and, they've come back totally fine. I mean, look, KD's having injury problems again, but again, I don't think that's going to be career ending for him. He'll be back this year.
True. And speaking of that, there's actually talk in New York about Kyrie being able to play home games soon. Anyway, but that's a digression.
Yeah, I mean, look, why don't we? I'll quickly finish this off, and then we'll segue to that because that's worth
I'm
talking about
looking.
too.
I'm looking at Card Ladder at the moment now.
Yeah,
Aside from Coles and Woolworths both having Zion on special,
yeah.
if you go to Aldi at the moment, sorry, not Aldi, it's BGS.
Yeah.
Now this is interesting because I was looking at Zion base. Now, if you look at PSA 10,
Yeah.
the population is now, I'm not going to exaggerate, 20,629 as we record.
Okay.
That is how many PSA 10 Zions there are. So this is where I question, especially if it's those big, the BGS PSA, there is a difference, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's not as wide as other grading companies out there. Let's go to BGS 10.
Talk to me.
Population 684.
Okay.
Last sold for $599.
Yeah.
PSA 10s are getting sold for $200 US. BGS 10s are triple that. Interesting.
That's really weird, isn't it?
Now, 9.5s on the other hand are back to the last sold price 120. So look, there's 9,500 of those. So we're literally looking at between 9.5s and 10s between PSA and BGS. There's over 30,000 of these cards.
Yeah.
Which is why the BGS 10 is probably the more sought after. But
I cannot explain that. I mean, that goes against all market trends at the moment.
Yeah. There's a population of 27 BGS 10 blacks, like black label. 10, 10, 10. Last sold price, $15K. This is Card Ladder. There's nothing recent, though. Last sold price, $15K.
Do you have any black labels in your PC?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
Population 27. This is something that there are 30,000 copies of out there in 9.5 and 10.
Like, even the worst card you could imagine in a black label is just hideously expensive.
Yeah. That's
What did the black label last sell for, mate? Have you got that price set?
It says last sold price was $15,000 US. Last sold was August.
Is that base or silver?
That is base.
15,000.
That is 15,000 US for a base card.
Oh god, you'd just cartwheel all the way to the bank, wouldn't you?
Just trying to think if I had a black label. Did I have a Magic Johnson? I don't have it anymore, so I'm not even going to think about that anymore. Yeah.
So just going back to what I was saying, like, I'm not worried about Zion sort of, too royally, and the way his prices are at the moment, it's too good to go past. So I think, so if we remember the Ben Simmons situation that happened 2 weeks ago, so this guy was holding out. There was no really good reason that he wasn't playing basketball.
Yeah.
He then gets traded, and his cards go up 50% in a week. Like,
are we thinking that this might happen? That he might actually get traded, or do you think he's just going to wait till his contract elapses? That's a long time, though. Didn't he just?
No, but if he forces a trade, and then comes back next year, and he's all healed up and ready to go, like,
yeah,
I can't see why these won't go up 50%. I don't. There's nothing in my mind that's. I think things have gone really badly there. And I think this, to me, I mean, look, Twitter is the worst place for, like, finding yourself in an echo chamber. And this is where I am right now. Like, this is the narrative in my mind that I've solidified. And this is just like, putting more concrete into it for me. But, I just don't see this as, like, a concerning story for me. This, to me, is, like, really reassuring that he just wants out of there. And,
well, there were a couple of things that I read. The first one that I read was that Zion had lost trust in the GM. So he'd actually lost trust in the New Orleans management.
Yeah.
But these are all reports. These aren't Zion's never, and of course he's not going to come out and say something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of it's one of those. I don't know what you call it. It's one of the. It's just the same old, same old. It's a broken record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, KD's not happy. He's going to have a sook and get traded. Ben Simmons isn't happy. Even he got out relatively unscathed. Well, it cost him a fair bit of money, but
Yeah.
he got his wish. Harden, who actually had a really nice debut
The Nets
for
can
Philly.
actually pay him his full salary if they choose to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
and if he works out, I'm sure they will.
yeah.
But yeah, look, I think my concern isn't where he plays; it's if he plays.
Okay.
Because the other things that are being reported are like the injuries.
But not a lot is really being reported about that.
There's no confirmation on the second foot surgery.
Yeah.
But it's been reported that he might need it.
He might need it, but that's okay too. Like that's the nature of that beast with that injury. If it's a Jones fracture, the circulation of the blood down there is not that great, and then it can take longer to heal. And
how much has come out of Zion's camp about his status?
I would say very, very little.
He's been talking to Kawhi Leonard. That's the problem. That fun-loving guy.
It's not the worst thing.
But no, do you remember when?
Do we need another Kyrie that sits in front of the media and sprouts off flat Earth theories, 24/7? I don't think so.
Yeah, true. I don't know. I feel like nothing coming from the camp feels very Kawhi, and it's like, at what point do you go? Come on, just come out and show us. He also hasn't won 2 Finals MVPs, Zion.
Yeah.
So he needs to stop being a bit of a drama queen. He hasn't got on the court.
Yeah.
Get on the court and show us what you're made of.
Yeah. We might as well call this episode the Conspiracy Theory Special.
It is. Look, NBA conspiracy theories, that's one thing the league is not short on, that's for sure.
We've got another one, and it's related again to cards, so this is quite juicy. There was a report this week, and actually I picked this up off the Cardboard Nonsense podcast. They reported that Fanatics is allowing Panini to sell their product in the Memphis Grizzlies arena. So,
hang on. Is this Panini selling Fanatics products?
So it's a Fanatics store.
Fanatics selling Panini products,
and it's a Fanatics store, and they're selling Panini products in there.
So it's just basically a store that's selling basketball cards, isn't it?
It's true, but I think
I'm leaving my conspiracy hat off for this one. I want to hear your conspiracy theory.
Well, I've said this from the very start. I never thought that Fanatics bought or got the rights to all this to remove Panini. That didn't make sense to me. Like Panini's
is this the olive branch?
Well, I always thought that Fanatics was essentially just going to do distribution better for them and make everyone more money. That was my sort of basic understanding of the situation. And this is the first collaboration, between these guys publicly since the takeover has happened. And, you might say that this is a story that means absolutely nothing and it's such a small story. Why on earth are we talking about it? But maybe this is literally this is a
seed.
Yeah, the first seed that's been sown. I was going to say,
if I was going to sow a seed, it's not going to be in Memphis, that's for sure. But anyway.
But I think that was also something that the Fanatics guys talked about. They wanted product. So you've spoken about this a lot, that when you were a kid, you used to be able to go down to the newsagent and you could buy a $3, a $4, or a $5 pack.
Yeah.
So Panini wants that to happen again. So when you go to basketball arenas, when you go to Targets, when you go to wherever, there'll always be products, available for you. So
yeah.
And I think that's, and I think also selling basketball cards at basketball cards arenas is a very clever thing to do, because that's like a grassroots type initiative to do. So you're actually, connecting with people who are obviously, very passionate and invested into basketball. So it's a home run, really. I love this story for so many reasons. And I think, again, if you're, like conspiracies like myself, well, then you would say, this is not the end of Panini. This is the beginning of a very fruitful relationship with Fanatics.
All right. So I'll phrase it this way.
Yeah.
Does Panini stay Panini, or do Fanatics buy Panini?
I mean,
my question is, how does it look? Is this a working relationship, or is it a not so hostile takeover?
I mean, whether they own them or don't own them, I don't think that matters at all. Because if they buy them out, they're still going to keep all of the staff on, because the staff is what makes the company. It's not the logo that's on the T-shirt or the logo that's on the pack.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about logos, and Charlie said this when he came onto the podcast. He said too many people have invested too much money into the Panini brand just to throw that away. And
yeah, that's true.
Fanatics is too smart to discount that. Like, how many billions and billions of dollars are we talking about here? You can't just, reinvent the wheel on this. I think Panini's too important.
Yeah, look, I still feel like Panini is a cornerstone in the hobby. Simple, just like really, like it's what the modern hobby looks like.
They built the modern hobby. They are the modern hobby.
You know what I mean? Upper Deck overprinted it and destroyed it, and Panini resurrected that. So they've done a lot of the hard yards. They've done a lot of that work, and
100%.
And to not see them, in the future of the hobby is definitely, I don't know. It's not really something I can imagine. I can see a buyout of sorts if Panini do want to relinquish control of what they've built, or they want to say, you know what, it's all too hard. Fanatics are welcome to buy it. And obviously Fanatics have got some clout when it comes to making acquisitions. So, I mean, that might not be off the table, but they also might just go, you know what, Panini have done a great job making products. We're going to give them permission to make X, Y, Z for us. It's fine. Like a subcontractor, effectively. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, because it will have to flow through Fanatics. Fanatics will have to give them permission to make the product. But if it does work on that level, maybe you won't see the fire sales in 24, 25. You know what I mean? Like dumping product, patches and things into product. If they're going to stick around, they don't want to burn their bridges.
I mean, I think that's valid to bring that point up. But at the same time, I think there's so much that needs to happen or will happen before we get to that point of them putting, a one of one into every box. And I'd probably also say too, I'm still going to buy a box if I get a one of one in it. Like, I don't care if it's overprinted and all like played out. Like, I actually think that's a really cool thing. It's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I think the landscape's going to be very different, but I also think that Panini's going to play a big role moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've put my feet into a pretty steady position on this. I really hope that Panini stays around. I think for all the crap that we give Panini for quality control that's not always there, and redemption systems that aren't really that responsive. I think what they've done has just been tremendous, and you can't take that away from them, to be honest.
Certainly not at all. I don't know. I just I think it's showing that there can be a good working relationship with Panini and Fanatics. And the Fanatics do just want the best for the hobby, which is a good thing. Most certainly.
Would you like to talk about winners or losers of the trade deadline from a hobby perspective?
From a hobby perspective,
is there anyone that's sort of caught your attention?
You know what? And this is after I feel like I've been beaten into submission. Ja Morant is the real deal. Did you watch? Actually, I'm going to go All-Star first.
Okay, sure.
I'm on Ja Morant as the next that Kobe Bryant reminiscent player. Got him. What about DeJounte? Both the players we spoke about last week in the All-Star game. God, they took the bull by the horns, so to speak, and went off.
Yeah, Morant really made an effort, I think, to put on a show.
Yep. And DeJounte just played out of his skin.
Yeah.
That was great.
I was a little bit disappointed with how Garland played. I was kind of hoping that he would just, drop 20 points or something like that. Look, he didn't play badly, but he didn't play poorly. Actually, I do have another takeaway from All-Star game. I couldn't not notice how many fourth quarter minutes LaMelo Ball played.
Oh, how much did he play? He played quite a bit.
I didn't sit there with a stopwatch and record his minutes. I'm not Ryan Russillo here, but like, I definitely noticed he was out there. And the other thing that my theory on this is, in All-Star games, when it comes to the fourth quarter, you can either play or you can't play. Like, they don't put the potatoes out there because it just sort of almost like ruins the whole flow of the game. And we kind of spoke about this like last week. Like, he's not a number one, he's a number two, but he's such a good number two. You could just see how he just fit in with all the big dogs. So
yeah,
that was super cool for me. And again, really, reassuring too about sort of where he sits on the NBA landscape. Like,
look, speaking of big dogs,
yeah,
LeBron's shot at the end, nice.
Yeah,
LeBron going up to Jordan like a fanboy was hilarious.
Yeah.
But Steph Curry, did you hear him just going to the sidelines? He's like, "What's the record? What's the record?"
Yeah,
they were trying to get him that points record.
He was definitely on point. I think when you're shooting shots and not even watching them go in, you're just like running
and asking the audience like, "Did it go in? Did it go in?" And just laughing and just. But it was an All-Star game. They're having a lot of fun with it. Yeah. And then for the last 5 minutes or whatever, when they shoot the light, the first three quarters sort of just go.
Yeah.
And then the fourth quarters blink and you miss it because they need 25 points. That's that. But they actually started playing defense. Actually, Giannis fouled first in the third quarter, and that I'm like, whoa, hang on, mate, he went a bit early.
Yeah.
But it was entertaining. It was good to watch. But I tell you what, this is the first year they named it the Kobe Bryant Trophy.
Yeah.
So Steph came out and shot the lights out and got himself the first trophy. You could tell LeBron wanted to win it. LeBron hasn't lost since it's been this system.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You're talking about the Elam ending, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can we talk about winners and losers post-trade deadline?
Have we seen much in the way of the stuff that happened trade week? Have we seen enough yet? We saw James Harden today, and everything from the highlights that I've seen, Philly are much better off with a player on the court than one sitting on the sideline.
Yeah. So actually, I watched that game today, and Harden was just playing with them, and the chemistry and the continuity of play that they showed after one game was just amazing. And that's kind of the funny thing about James Harden. Yes, he's ball dominant and all the rest of it, but the thing that really stood out to me today was actually Philadelphia's got some athletes on the wing, and Harden is really good at getting the ball up the court into people's hands.
Yeah.
And they actually have a lot of speed. And you sort of forget that a little bit with Simmons, because he really put that team into, transition often and efficiently, and they lost that. And I actually had completely forgotten about it. So then Harden was really igniting breaks for these guys. And these kids can get out there and run. Like Thibault got a lot of time out there today, and even Maxey can, run a little bit too. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Look, I haven't thought a lot about Philadelphia card value wise. I'm happy to talk about if you want to. Who have you got your eye on in Philly?
I was going to say role players at this stage. Where are we?
Yeah.
Card ladder.
I've got Harden up at the moment. I've got his PSA 10 base up.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of sales going on here. In the last 3 months, he's only had 7 sales, sorry.
Yeah.
He's down actually 16%. His last sale was $1,500 for a base PSA 10. So
yeah. So there's been nothing
huge.
I suppose the trade deadline day stuff is still, it might be a bit recent. Maybe we go to some that happened a couple of days before the deadline.
Yeah, you can if you want. I mean, I've definitely got something I want to talk about.
Is it Halliburton?
It's not. Actually, I want to talk about Brooklyn because.
Ooh, I was going to talk about the Kings, because they've Kings and Pacers have sort of played a little bit of ball since. But yeah, let's go to Brooklyn.
Yeah, let's go through that, and then we can go through Pacers. No worries at all. So I think Brooklyn is a team to keep an eye on in terms of hobby-wise, because at the moment they're sitting in 8th place, but I think they could, because the standings are so close together, I think they could go up the standings very rapidly. Also, they could fall into the play-in game, or even, fall out of that. Like, I really think they're that team that has, a lot of variability there. I think that's because of, Kyrie's, vaccination status, Ben Simmons's physical, and also his, emotional status. And then, KD is not going to rush back, I don't think, after the horrendous injuries he's had the last few years. But what I will say that I think we do need to, keep in mind that Simmons could come back at any minute, and we've already seen a spike in his prices. We talked about that last week. He's actually trended down a little bit in the last 7 days, but I think you could still see that, volatility there.
Is there any formal timeline? Have they come out and said when he's expected to get back?
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. And
there's just been a few random photos circulating of him sitting next to teammates.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, great, you made it to Brooklyn. Congratulations.
I was shocked that Harden played today, because the thing that they said at the press conference, because I listened to it, I listened to it twice. I'm sure I'm not mistaken about this. They said they were going to hold him out until he was 100% right, and it could have been, like, the way they said it, it sounded like it was going to be 3 weeks. So they brought him back after 2 weeks.
Is it one of those things where they were saying that so that he didn't look like an a-hole for sitting out the All-Star game?
Maybe he could have played All-Star game.
Yeah, maybe he just wanted it. Like, it was like, we just need to get through All-Star weekend and let him not play, not draw any attention to the fact that he's not playing. He's injured. He's too injured to play in the All-Star game.
He didn't look injured, and he didn't look deconditioned. That was the other thing too. Like, you can tell when Harden's holding onto his shorts. He wasn't doing that today.
Yeah, he was ready to go. He was very, very ready to go. And look, if you've sort of been going through that kind of unrest, you want to perform at your best for your debut.
Yeah.
There is always that pressure. So
going back to Brooklyn, though, I think, Simmons, you can definitely keep your eye on that space. And, I think we can see some more volatility there. The next one I wanted to talk about was Kyrie. So, and you've already brought this up in today's episode, that if they're going to change the vaccine mandate in New York, which seems to be going to happen. And Bill Simmons commented on that too, is they said that was the reason why they traded Harden and not Irving, because they knew that at some point this season he would be allowed to play home games. So again, if you like conspiracy theories, that to me is like super juicy, and it's not silly either, because, KD and Kyrie are just like close as anything. And I think Harden was close to them, but obviously was much less important to their relationship than, what Kyrie was. So I think at the moment, the way his prices are down, and if you look at the trend down for the last few months, there's no reason why you can't see a spike in this guy, particularly if they have a really deep playoff run.
Yeah. I don't see why not. Like, it's Kyrie, as eccentric as he is a fantastic basketballer. Yeah. He is a great basketball mind, and far out. It's imagine. I don't know how this is going to work with Simmons and Irving on the floor.
Yeah.
Clearly, we know which one's going to shoot the three at the end of the game if it came down to one of those two. But Kyrie. I mean, if all the COVID protocols go away and players are just allowed to play, maybe Kyrie does do something.
Look, I think it's really obvious to me now that in this sort of modern NBA, you can't win with just like one superstar, and you really need, roster depth, and you need, more than one person.
They've got some shooting there, though. They've got some serious firepower.
Yeah.
And they're just a lot more scary when KD comes back.
Yeah. So, if you use Lakers as an example, you would think that between Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook, even if one of them was out or two of them was out, the other person would be able to, like, hold the fort. But even that doesn't seem to be enough, sort of in today's NBA. Like, it's...
Yeah, look, I mean, at the moment, like, I think the Lakers are a bad example of having too many stars at being a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some serious issues that are going on. And I think it might come down to their consistency with their rotations, with... I don't know what's happening with the Lakers, but if you look at... I'm gonna use LeBron as the example.
Yeah.
He made a change. He made a change this season and played center for a string of games.
Yeah.
What if Ben Simmons played point center?
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like, they use him in the same. They've got so much firepower, so much shooting. Do you make a change in his role?
I think the real question to that is why hasn't he played center already in his career? Like, he is 6'10".
Yeah.
I think the answer to that is he's just
soft as butter.
I wouldn't go that, but I don't think
he's definitely not AD. Let's be sorry.
I don't think he's a big body that stands underneath the ring and, like, boxes guys out. He's more like the athlete that sort of comes over the top to pick up rebounds, and he's not probably got a strong enough lower frame to be defending, multiple post-ups.
Yeah.
24-second possession. Like, I think in the kindest way, I think that's probably why.
But it's kind of I'm talking more of a small ball run and gun.
It'll be sick if he could play center. I mean? Like, if he could just good. Yeah.
Like, I mean, the guy can rebound the ball, so it's not like he's being asked to go.
Don Nelson, run TMC type teams when they had Weber playing center, or like Billy Owens playing center. Like, that would just be lit. Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree with you more. But
and you know what? It's a good way. Like, the guy's being criticized so much for his outside game because he's a point guard, right? Put him in the middle. Change it up. Do something different. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? It doesn't work and everyone goes, oh, what a terrible center.
Yeah.
So he just goes back to being the point forward, whatever.
Look, I mean, I love building, 2K teams, and I have to admit, I would be trading Tobias Harris to move him out to free up the cap room, and I would have put Simmons in at power forward and then Seth Curry in at point guard for that more shooting, and then they've got the speed and still size on the floor. Like, that to me makes sense. So if they can somehow do that in Brooklyn, which they probably could do, to be honest, like KD and Simmons and, say, Claxton.
It's going to be interesting.
And then you've got Kyrie and, say, Joe Harris. Like, it's not impossible to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be an interesting finish to the season. We're in for Brooklyn's pushing something up a hill at the moment. So we'll see what they we'll see. This is where Steve Nash is going to be tested.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of I've got all the stars, just throw them on the court anymore. It's very much mix it up, see what happens. Now, if Steve Nash can come out with some crazy reinvention way to reinvent Ben Simmons and get him performing like a superstar, those card prices go up a long way.
I think Steve Nash is the type of communicator and coach that could really get through to Simmons, because Steve Nash was just an amazing point guard. And at the end of the day, Simmons considers himself to be a point guard. And, maybe they could have that type of relationship where they really do connect and, work together really well. Like, Doc isn't that type of same nurturer, I don't think. He's definitely a leader and he's definitely an exceptional one, but maybe Simmons does need that more sort of nurturing type relationship because of his personality type. So, yeah, I love Steve Nash, so I'm probably pretty biased in that space.
Nash is one of the greatest basketball minds as far as reading the game goes.
Yeah.
Look, it's an early gig for him, but he spent a lot of time around Golden State, and I think he's going to have that Kerr vibe to him.
His whole life has been developing into a head coach. I don't think this is a stretch for him at all, to be honest. Like, I think point guards in many ways are like head coaches. I think that's why they translate well.
That's what they do when they're playing. So it's just a natural transition to take the playing the game out of it because they read the game so well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Hey, my last one that I want to talk about on the Brooklyn Nets is KD, because there's two things that's really going through my mind when it comes to this. So I'm sort of going through this phase in my collecting life where um, I've got this like thought stuck in my head at the moment of like, it's so obvious it's in front of you, but it's so obvious you don't see it. And I think Kevin Durant is one of those guys because he's such an amazing player, and I think his card value is so depressed for what it should be in terms of him where he stands in the all-time list. Because I think if he finishes, say, the 15th best player all time, I'm not going to be shocked about that for 2 seconds. I'll be like, yep, the guy was just an amazing baller, and his resume is filled out absolutely beautifully. And worst case scenario, he's got 2 championships.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at his rookie whiteboard, a PSA 10, last sold for $540 USD. That's currently down 26% over the last 3 months, which is minus 196. So I'm sort of going through this phase at the moment where I'm just like ticking off, like I just bought an larger one this week. I bought David Robinson Flawless last week. I think Kevin Durant needs to be on my list, and I need to get him sort of like, I think, to be honest, like more up to the top. I need to do some research into this before I buy it, but I think that why are these prices so low compared to like ultra modern stuff?
Yeah.
Like, to me, it just doesn't, make a ton of sense. And maybe this is what I need to do. I need to sit down and, work out, what the pop runs are. Maybe because the pop runs are so huge that, this is why the prices are so low. But yeah, I think at this point of time, again, because the way the Nets are playing, he's injured. There is sort of some opportunity here, to buy. And if you're asking for my sort of inner thoughts here, I'm buying this for the long term. I'm not buying this for a short term flip. I'm just sort of using this dip now to get a little bit more value in my back pocket.
Yeah, so, Kevin Durant's an interesting one. And his career's taken a number of turns.
Yeah.
It's sort of 3 phases when you think about it. There was his Oklahoma City days.
Yeah.
And there's this that. Do you remember the crying, thanking his mum, the MVP, that KD?
Yeah.
And then we went to the Warriors, and he had 101 burner accounts for Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
And now we've got Brooklyn KD. I'm not sure what the narrative does, I guess, to his card value. Because he's a very different person than the person everyone fell in love with in OKC. He went to a team to win, and no one held that against him. But did they? Because then he got a bit eccentric and a bit weird, and that's why I thought him and Kyrie kind of fit together.
I think he was very criticized for that at the time, and I think even his own ex-teammates did. Like Westbrook was calling him a cupcake for all that time, and it didn't. I don't think that went down the public. I would say his public perception of that was actually very negative, and that was a huge motivator for him relocating again to Brooklyn to start his own team, basically.
He went and started his own team, and then he got his old teammate James Harden in, and that went really, really south.
I think Harden, to me, is more the common denominator there. If you think about how many teammates he's pushed out, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, on and on and on. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that's on KD.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But it's it's just it's an interesting one. It's just interesting to go. I don't know, like even 5 years ago, you'd go, who is KD? And you go, you know what? He was just frustrated in OKC and wanted to win, so he went to the Warriors. But now you ask who KD is, and you're like, his ego's kind of taken over. And you're right, it's the court of public opinion that's done a lot to it. But I suppose the question here is, how does that impact his card prices in the future? And it's I don't know what happens if KD doesn't win post Warriors. Do you know what I mean? If his only title is with the Warriors.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's more interesting than I'm kind of digressing, but yeah. I just think it's I'm not sure how it impacts the prices, and look, it's interesting to say that you think he's a buy. I'm unsure. I would like to. There's certain players that I would like to collect or like to have one or two of.
Yeah.
Cards wise, but KD doesn't hit my radars, and it's probably because of those reasons, the court of public opinion. And I may have been suckered by Twitter and you know what I mean, like listening to the media, listening to podcasts, like and the media's opinion of him, or the villain they've shaped him to be.
Yeah, I mean, in 20 years' time, is anyone going to care that he changed teams? Like, I don't think so. And also, I'd say too,
But is he going to be mentioned in those? Do you know what I mean? Like, who is he?
He's one of the greatest scoring forwards ever.
Is he though?
Yeah,
potential. Like he is, but is he? Like, when does his career end? He's no spring chicken because he's been in the league 15 years now.
Yeah.
So he's definitely not up at LeBron's status where he's like pushing for Kareem. I'm just playing devil's advocate now. Like, I'm not personally. I think KD is when he's on the floor and like watching him play for Team USA, you see the talent that man. Like, he is.
There's nothing you can't do.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal basketballer, but injuries, life choices.
Yeah.
He's definitely changed. He's changed his public perception.
Yeah.
People's perception of him. Because I don't connect that the guy on the podium crying when he accepted his MVP award, when he called his mum the real MVP. I don't see that man anymore. And that's just his evolution as a player.
Yeah, for sure.
And what the media's done. So yeah, I worry about that impacting his long-term value. Like, yes, statistically he's going to be great.
Yeah,
but that doesn't make Karl Malone a very collectible asset. The guy, I'm not having a dig at the mailman, but Karl Malone scored what? Is he second or third now? Is LeBron overtaken Malone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the third highest scorer in NBA history, but he's still not in that tier, I guess, as far as the all-time greats. Like, so being a dominant scorer, scoring forward, probably. Whereas I said, Steph Curry will be remembered for generations. That man changed the game.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if I wanted to collect someone from this era, like if I was picking wanted to pick up a card, Curry would be it. Because I think Curry is going to be cross-generational and is something that the way we talk about Jordan or I talk about Kobe, there are children that are going to have kids one day and they're going to tell their kids about Curry.
Yeah, 100%.
I just don't think they're going to tell them about KD.
Yeah.
And look, they might be wrong. He might go and win 3 titles with Brooklyn. Brooklyn turns it around and they're crazy good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just, it's just a question. It keeps the question: who is KD? What has he done? And I don't doubt his talent, but the results, there's no real results there.
I have to admit, you have sown a small seed of doubt into my mind, but I still think in terms of years of service, and when we look back at the last 75 years of the NBA, but in 20 years' time, so the last 95 years, I think he's going to be like in the top 15. And I think in some ways, like what you said before about LeBron is true, and I agree with that. And the fact that I said KD's 15th and not second or third, that is, I'm clearly admitting that straight away. But I'd probably also say too, you can't really put KD and LeBron into the same sentence. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Look, LeBron's in the Jordan conversation, right?
Exactly. He's in like the Mount Rushmore, whereas KD is more like, he's still in first class. Like the guys,
he's got Rushmore potential. How's that?
I don't think so. Like, I think him sitting in 15.
He had Rushmore potential. How's that?
I mean, what's wrong with being the 15th best player ever? Like, and I think that's really good. I think what I'm trying to say here is that, are his card prices reflected like that? Like, I just don't think so. And so, is there a little bit of value to be had there? And again, we're going through like a bit of a lull,
Yeah, true. True.
So, and I mean, look, if you're buying for the long term, some people sort of believe at the moment that we're going to see even more sort of, overall downtrending again over the next 12 months. Maybe you could say, well, it's best to, wait for another 12 months before you make these, type of purchases. But he's definitely on my radar, that's for sure. So, yeah.
Interesting. So maybe we just buy on the dip.
We're at an hour, my friend.
All right, so wrap it up. I'm going to say something very quickly.
Hit me.
Because I want to bring LeBron. Let's conspiracy theories. It was talked about over All-Star. There were comments made. Yeah. LeBron wants to play with Bronny.
Is this a conspiracy theory or a report?
Is he going to leave the Lakers?
Is this reported though?
This the media, they put little quote things up in inverted commas and make them into quotes, and
yeah.
He does want to play basketball with his son. I've said this for years. It was obvious. Yeah. Right? He's going to be in the NBA at the same time as his dad. Of course he's going to want to play with him. Now, this is where, and shout out to Andrew, the host of the It Goes Without Saying, or It Should Go Without Saying podcast. He didn't say it on the show, but he did message me after the show saying, LeBron, second stint in Cleveland, 4 years. LeBron, stint in Miami, 4 years. This is the fourth year LeBron's been in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Is LeBron in Los Angeles for a fifth year is the question.
Okay, it actually was reported. So this is what he told The Athletic. My last year will be played with my son. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I would do whatever it takes to play with my son for 1 year. It's not about money at that point.
Yep.
This is not a rumor. This is
no. This is the man's legacy. He wants to play his final season with his son.
Yeah.
He also didn't say it was going to be Bronny's first season.
Interesting.
So and not that Father Time's been nice to anyone in the history of ever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like once Father Time says it's time, LeBron, that's going to be his last season, and then he's going to go. But it's not saying that the second Bronny drops into the NBA, LeBron's going to switch teams. But this is going to be the last long-term deal I think we see for LeBron.
Interesting.
It's going to be the man's legacy. Kobe won an Oscar. LeBron's going to be the only man in NBA history to play alongside his son. That's a narrative. It's a beautiful narrative.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if this episode, I think this is what we're going to call this episode, the conspiracy theory episode. Yeah. But I think this is not, to be honest, I don't find this a conspiracy theory. Like, no. I think this is just like...
My theory, my conspiracy is he going to leave Los Angeles? Is there going to be... We've talked about players demanding trades. We've alluded to Zion potentially demanding a trade.
Well...
Is LeBron over it in LA?
So I Googled LeBron James wants to play with Bronny. The first thing that came up was Skip Bayless knows which team LeBron James wants to play on.
If it's New York, I'll cry.
I can't believe Skip Bayless. This guy, I can't even believe I've mentioned his name.
You clicked on it. It's clickbait for a reason.
I'm disappointed in myself. So
he fell for it.
He reckons it's OKC. I think we should probably put this onto our socials, actually.
Oh, wow.
So OKC, I mean... Seriously, this guy.
But yes, it's not. That's not the conspiracy. The conspiracy is LeBron. LeBron only gets outspoken when he's about to make a move. Is he over his time in LA?
I don't think so. I think he gave up a lot to go there, and I'd probably say, like you're talking about legacy. I think people can really build a legacy by going to LA. The thing about LA too is that
it's a spotlight.
Well. I think they're going to retool in the off season. Like I think it's pretty well established that the Westbrook trade was a mistake, and I think they'll be able to fix that in some capacity.
Yeah,
I think they've been pretty injury ravaged this year, and it's pretty safe to say that. Well, in my mind, I would expect that Anthony Davis will come back next season and play better than he has this year. If they add this third piece, it will fit in a bit better, and then maybe LeBron can take a little bit of a lesser role and then play more minutes when he's needed to. Like, I think that would be the perfect situation, and why can't that happen? So, and Los Angeles is the premium place to play in America. I don't think there's any, that's where you want to play.
Yeah, for sure.
It's as simple as that. So
yeah, look, we don't know where Bronny's going to go. Let's just hope it's well, for my sake, let's hope he plays in purple and gold. But I feel like Bronny's now just guaranteed himself like a lottery pick.
I mean, Giannis got his brother paid.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't
LeBron get his son paid?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Oh, look, it's interesting. I'll be interested to see what happens in the offseason in LA. I think there's reason to be concerned if you're a Lakers fan.
Yeah.
That he might not be happy because he's been a bit outspoken, but he just might be stirring shit up. Who knows?
Definitely.
Anyway, you're right. We're over an hour. We're probably we're probably pushing double episode territory. So,
oh, not again.
No. Although I have been enjoying the listening on a Sunday or Monday, and then middle of the week another little hit. Getting a couple of random messages going, oh, good show. Oh, the second half was good. Or I downloaded it so you got extra listens. No.
All right, mate.
It's been good. Yeah, conspiracies. Anyone else has got conspiracies, they should write to us. Where can the
we love conspiracies.
Where can the conspiracy theorists catch us?
Yep, that's it.
You can write us an email. We can have a follow-up. We can have a follow-up conspiracy theory episode. Send us an email. We're still to get our first listener email. It's youcantcompthis@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Hit us with the biggest NBA conspiracies, and we will discuss them at length. If you want to see us on Instagram, it's youcantcompthis. Just pretty simple search there, and on the Twitters, it's at youcantcompthis. Is there anything I've missed? Oh, there's a Facebook group as well.
Yeah. I think just our T-shirts. We've got 2 T-shirts in our line at the moment. One is Conspiracies Are Us, and our second one is
Regulate the Hobby.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. We'll get a merch store eventually. Don't you worry.
Alrighty, mate. Thank you so much for tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for another great episode. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care.